How you doing? Good to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin shortly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Marshall Hall, headquarters of United States Army Reserve Command, where Lieutenant General Robert Harter will assume command of the United States Army Reserve Command. General Drew Pappas, Commanding General, United States Army Forces Command, will officiate today's ceremony. We'd like to extend a special welcome to our distinguished guests who've joined us for this special occasion. General Harter's wife, Erin Harter, their daughter, Anna, son-in-law, Bobby, and granddaughter, Catherine, their sons, Jack and First Lieutenant Bobby Harter, his mother, Mary, and father, Lieutenant Colonel retired Bob Harter, as well as a host of other family members and close friends. We're incredibly honored to have with us today Command Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army Forces Command, CSM Holland, Deputy Commanding General of the U.S. Army Forces Command, Lieutenant General Smith, the Assistant Chief of Army Reserve, Mr. Austin, the Command Chief Warrant Officer of the Army Reserve, CW5 White, the 9th Commanding General of the U.S. Army Reserve Command, Lieutenant General retired Daniels, and spouse, Colonel retired McCarthy, the 8th Commanding General of the U.S. Army Reserve Command, Lieutenant General retired Lucky, and spouse, Mrs. Lucky, the 12th Command Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army Reserve Command, CSM retired Thomas, the Army Reserve Ambassador for North Carolina, Mr. Bobby Irvin, and the Army Reserve Ambassador for Virginia, Mr. Busher, and spouse, Mrs. Busher. The U.S. Army Reserve Command would also like to extend a thank you to all of our other general officers, senior executive service members, and leaders from across the military, along with organizations that support our soldiers and families, mentors, friends, and everyone joining us live via Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. The music for today's ceremony is performed by the 208th Army Reserve Band under the direction of CW3 Robert Slade. The color guard is from the United States Army Reserve Command and is led by Command Sergeant Major Gregory Betty from the United States Army Reserve Command. The salute battery is from Charlie 2, 319th, 82nd Airborne Division Artillery and is commanded by Second Lieutenant Mary Spangler. Before you are the colors of the United States Army Reserve Command, Major Subordinate Commands. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party, rendering of honors, and the invocation. General Pappas is deferring honors to Lieutenant General Harter. Chaplain Michael Ducharme, United States Army Reserve Command, Command Chaplain, will offer the invocation.
Good morning. I was tasked with praying for good weather, and I apologize to the folks in the front row. I overcompensated, I think. Would you please join me in a word of prayer? Our God in heaven, we give you thanks for this day that you have made, and we welcome your presence as we celebrate Lieutenant General Harter's assumption of command. We ask that your providential care be upon General Harter and Erin and their entire family. And we ask that you grant General Harter wisdom, might, humor, and compassion as he leads our Army Reserve soldiers, families, and civilians during these turbulent times. May he sense your presence and peace, and may his energy and enthusiasm be contagious in our USAR family for the days to come. And we ask all these things with confidence in your mighty name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Ducharme. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Lieutenant General Harter's wife, Erin Harter, is being presented with a bouquet of yellow roses A warm and heartfelt gesture welcoming her as the senior spouse to the United States Army Reserve Command family, symbolizing both appreciation and the beginning of her new role within the command. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and remain seated as General Pappas conducts the Assumption of Command ceremony. The Assumption of Command is a traditional event that is rich with symbolism and heritage. The key to the ceremony is the passing of the organization's colors. These colors represent not only the lineage and honors of the unit, but also the cohesive unity of all its personnel, military and civilian. The colors are not only the commander's symbol of authority, but are a visual citation of the responsibilities to the organization. Wherever the commander is located, so too are the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our host for today's ceremony, General Drew Pappas.
Awesome. Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'll tell you, first, I'm going to step a little to the side here because I want to make sure that everybody recognizes the incredible family that's here. And I got the privilege of meeting Bob's parents this morning. And when you talk about a family of service, this is a family that represents that. They epitomize what it means to be a patriot. And to Colonel Bob Harter and Miss Mary, now Colonel Bob Harter was the last hard class at West Point in the class of '65. I learned that this morning. The rest of us are pretty weak. But after his graduation as a hell of an infantryman, he had a tour in Vietnam and he was twice wounded. And that's hard. Then when you see your son and your grandson enter into the service, I know that's hard for Miss Mary and also for Miss Erin, watching your children go off to war and prepared to the service. But, sir, thank you for your service, Miss Mary for yours, and you set a great example for your family. And that's also, when you look at Bobby, their son, you know, another airborne ranger. He's up there in the 11th Airborne Division coming out of Alaska, and a great soldier, committed himself to the services we have. So thank you for being here. And Bob, I could see it. Now I see that pride that you have in family, and it starts with your parents. Thanks. And I want to tell you, for everybody that's come out today, welcome to Fort Liberty. You know, many people call this place the home of the airborne and the special operations. You know, and that's true, but that's not all that we are. You know, this installation, especially Marshall Hall right behind me, is the home and nexus of war-fighting readiness. That's what we do. And the strength of the Army, 700,000 warfighters within the FORSCOM umbrella. It begins with the meaningful work achieved by the professionals within these walls. You know, we man, we equip, we resource, we train, and ultimately deploy the ready and resilient soldiers who fight and win our nation's wars. And I got to tell you, it's a monumental task that takes expertise, it takes the dedication, and requires trust at every level. And for the U.S. Army Reserve Command, and I've said it before, Ms. Jody, I've said it before that you are the largest and one of the most diverse and geographically dispersed three-star organizations in the United States Army. It's over 170,000 soldiers that comprise your ranks. And that's more than double the number assigned to any three-star active duty Army Corps. The entire population of Fayetteville is 170,000. You know, but of course, America's Army Reserve soldiers, you know, they're not going to be contained within any one city limits. You know, they're everywhere. So the demands on this USARC team are exponentially more complex and more important. So again, I want to welcome you to the home of Army's warfighting readiness. So whether you're joining us for the first time or returning as a teammate, family, or guest, thank you. We're glad you're here. Jody and John, thank you for coming down. It's great to see you again. Always part of this family. And for Chip Lucky, it's good to see you and Miss Lucky being here today. It was great being both of your neighbors up in D.C. And I always want to thank you for your continued support and commitment to the soldiers of our total Army. And I also want to thank the band and the salute battery, the USARC staff, and our protocol team. Oh, they took down oh, there they are. They got those comfy chairs back there. I want one of those, by the way. But we're going to celebrate them because they've helped put together not one, but two summertime ceremonies. So everyone, fantastic job as always. And if you'd be so kind as to give them all a round of applause for this ceremony. Like I said, and Anna, if you want to move a row back out of that sun, I bet you that. You sure? All right. You get to see a lot from this perch up here. But as we talk about this ceremony, ceremonies like this matter to our history and our profession, and to Bob and his family as he steps into yet another command role. And we know what it means to be a commander. And most of all, this ceremony is important because we're introducing to all the USARC soldiers to the officer who's going to lead them into the future. And that's exactly what Bob Harter is prepared to do. Promoted and sworn in as the Chief of the Army Reserve just last month by our Chief, General George, today Bob accepts his dual-hatted role as the commander of USARC. Now, after all, in solidarity with his Army Reserve soldiers, he couldn't be twice the citizen unless we gave him two jobs to do at the same job. But those roles aren't in competition. In fact, they're in harmony. You know, in Virginia, Bob is a principal advisor to the Army senior leaders, and his team administers the Reserve's budget and the full-time support. And all are vital to the operations of this force. We're lucky because Bob has deep experience in this realm, over 6 years within the OCAR team. And here at USARC, don't forget, we are the home of Army readiness. That's what Bob is here to drive, and drive he will because readiness is what he knows. He has trained operational forces within the reserve. He's led them in combat, and he's commanded within this force, most recently at the 2-star level, one of their own readiness divisions. And today, Bob enters into command armed with experience, with judgment, and a team of experts that are in support of this mission. And I'll tell you, a strong family by his side. Thank you for being here today. To Aaron and his 3 wonderful children. This morning we have Anna, Bobby, who are here, and Jack couldn't make it. But welcome and thank you, and welcome to this Army family and to the Fayette Vegas, Jewel of the South, and to the Fort Liberty community. And I want to thank you for supporting Bob throughout his entire career and supporting our Army. And it's what's certain to be a very demanding role for the years to come. Thank you, Aaron. And Bob, again, congratulations to you. A lot of people are depending on you. Soldiers, families, the employers, the American people we defend, and then the total Army, from our reserve, our guard, and our active, because no one component in our force can fight and win on its own. You see it in our history, through our nation's wars, and within our Army force structure. Our all-volunteer total force is codependent on certain capabilities that reside in each of our components. So when you look at the Abrams Doctrine or the 93 Off-Site Agreement, these formative documents refocused our actions on projecting warfighting. That functional flexibility and our responsiveness, the sustainment function, became synonymous with USARC. Over 50%, think of that, 50% of our sustainment force structure resides here. Imagine a total Army mobilization without those critical capabilities to fight and win our nation's wars. Just as an example, when you look at that structure, the over-the-shore land transportation, delivery, and management logistics, we have 142 deployable field medical units from Ohio all the way out to California. Our theater-level support for aviation, and 2 unique theater-level engineer capability. And 76% of all of DoD's civil affairs and 63% of DoD's psychological operation capabilities reside in the U.S. Army Reserve. So if there's ever a doubt, let it be gone. We need each other. We need to train together. We need to prepare for war together. We need each and every USARC soldier to be at the forefront of any future conflict. So you must be ready to execute your wartime tasks. And that's whenever, wherever that next fight comes. And there is a fight on the horizon. And we need to be prepared, and we will face it together. Thank you. Congratulations to Bob and your family. Looking forward to your command. Thank you.
Thank you, General Pappas. Ladies and gentlemen, the 10th Commanding General, United States Army Reserve Command, Lieutenant General Robert Harter.
Well, good morning. Wow, what a humbling honor to be here standing before you today. And I will just echo General Pappas. Thanks to all the awesome folks that put this together, having to do 2 of them in less than a couple months. The band, the salute battery. Now, I will tell the folks sitting underneath the tent when I was out here earlier, sir, there were colonels and majors putting these tents up. Very little supervision, so I'm not sure how sturdy those things are. But so far, so good. Chaplain, great job on the weather. Hey, special thanks to, sir, to you, General Pappas, Freedom 6, for hosting today. We were actually up in Wisconsin, Fort McCoy. We were out doing a ribbon bridge op, one of our engineer formations. We were out on the Mississippi River. It was totally safe, despite photographic evidence that might say that the generals were not as safe as they should have been. But as he was talking, inspiring those soldiers, demonstrating presence and leadership, the warrior ethos that he talks about all the time, he said, hey, we're going to do this ceremony. We got to do this right. So, sir, thank you so much for your leadership and for all you're doing for Forces Command for the United States Army Reserve. The Army Reserve is all in. Itani Epitas. Hey, CSM Holland, thank you for being here. Great command team, such a great demonstration of that. Appreciate your support. To my battle buddy, Lieutenant General Steve Smith, we served together in theater 2016, 2017, and we were just talking about, I mean, that was a head-crushing assignment over there, dealing with ISIS and Mosul and Raqqa, and Steve started twitching as we started talking about it because he was the CJTF-3, so I stopped. But thank you for being here, Steve, and being such a great teammate. I got some other friends from my South Carolina contingent. I see Jan Hagler over there. I got Jed Sheridan, former DCG, the great Command Sergeant Major, retired Ed Bell. Spent a lot of time here. Dan Beatty, Jennifer Harding. I know Tom McCaffrey was going to be here. But thanks to all who are here celebrating today. It's an honor. I know right now, and I'll try to be brief, there's quite a few folks thinking, holy crap, how did this happen? And you're not wrong to think that, to be honest. The only reason I'm standing here today is because of the Lord and because of the people that the Lord has surrounded me with. I've been blessed with an incredible family, incredible friends, and of course, I've been blessed to serve with the most awesome soldiers, NCOs, officers, and civilians that have been carrying me my entire career. And I'd like to take time to thank a few. First, I'd like to thank a few of the former CARs. I was the XO to Jack Stoltz and to Jeff Talley. Learned all kinds of things about leadership, working for those two great leaders. I was briefly I worked for Chip Lucky for a while. Sir, it's great to see you here, you and your wife, Julie. Thanks for being here. General Lucky gave me the opportunity to be his kind of G3 and then gave me the opportunity to command the 316th and take that awesome formation back down range, which was a game changer. Only downside, sir, is you're a Wahoo, and as a Virginia Tech Hokie, but you're not too bad for Wahoo, sir. I appreciate you being here. And a special thanks to Jody, who's here today. Jody and John, it was a fantastic transition. Jody, Chip was leading us through COVID. Jody led us out of COVID, and it's just, she laid the groundwork, and it was just, like I said, a fantastic transition. We met a little bit earlier this morning, and she looked so much more refreshed and rested. So some other key mentors, I was chief staff for AMC and the great Gus Perna and Ed Daly. Those strategic leaders taught me about discipline and driving out output and phrases like don't confuse process with output. And then, of course, I think in the Army Reserve, Bo Young has always been a mentor to me, former Chief of Staff, the Army Reserve Commander. He's been just a great friend, he and his family. I'd like to apologize up front. Obviously, I can't thank everybody. I'd like to thank, know that I love you, the countless soldiers, NCOs, and leaders who I've served with and chewed dirt with. I would like to highlight some of my 316th teammates. So I talked about commanding the 316th in 2016, taking it down range. But I had the opportunity to kind of be in that formation as it stood up in 2006. We stood up the 316th ESC, the very first ESC in our Army. We deployed into Balad, Iraq. We were supporting the surge, and that was just an insane deployment, 12 months on the ground there. And we have several of the leaders here. For Greg Couch, the commander, is not here. He was a CG, but I see Paul Oppenheim, the former USARC G4, who was the SPO. Jack Lechner was a great teammate. Kurt Chebatoris, the great Randy Torno, who made the trip. Sergeant Major Steve War Machine Whitaker. Brian Franklin was with me, who now serves in the 81st. Mike Sharon. I see Sergeant Major Leckinger, Ken Walter, and his wife. So commanding that formation was unbelievable. And it was a game changer for me. It taught me everything I needed to learn about discipline and logistics and how to operate in that combat theater. And by the way, so we had a Staff Sergeant Chebatoris, who was in my fusion cell back in 2006. That same hero deployed with me as Colonel Chebatoris is my SPO when we went downrange in 2017. That's a whole different story. But really, I'll tell that another day. I'd like to thank my fellow Army Reserve commanders and command teams, Command Sergeant Major over here to my right, baking in the sun. Leaders and teammates, too many to mention. Many have grown up with the United States Army Reserve. Marty Klein, specifically, Deb Catula, Steve Austin, Stacy, Babcock, Sully, my battle buddy CSM here, Betty, who's crushing it, and Chief LaShawn White. Again, thank you for your support and leadership. tell you one thing you need, I think, I know I need for sure, is some awesome friends that aren't in the military that kind of keep you grounded, that are really mildly interested in your service or mildly interested in your rank. Let me put it that way. And I have several of those. I have a lot of them from my time at Virginia Tech. But I got two of my best friends in the world here. Steve Murphy, he's here with his wife Sharon, and Mike Parker. So we've been running together since 1979. And, they've always followed my career. We support each other. But, again, they keep you grounded because they're going to speak truth to power. They could care less what I've done. We were just out at a brewery in Manassas, Virginia, and we were hanging out, having a few beers, and they were saying, so you're like in charge of the whole Army Reserve? Is that how that's going? Well, yeah, okay, good. Hey, can you go get me another beer and get a pretzel while you're at it? It's almost exactly how that conversation went down. But that's what you need, right? Those two guys are the men that I can lean on for just ground truth, and it's awesome for them to be here. And CSM Thomas, thank you for you being here. I see you sitting up. Appreciate former CSM of the Army Reserve. So speaking about not giving a crap about what your rank is, I would like to thank my family, who also keep me grounded. So you heard General Pappas talk about my parents, right? So first my mom, and I think we have some flowers for my mom here. So again, a stay-at-home mom, kept me on the straight and narrow, right? Army spouse. We were talking when I was, 6 months old, and my mom was pregnant with my sister. That's when my father went to Vietnam, right? No cell phones. There was no FaceTime. There was none of that. It was having no idea what was going on downrange. And so, my father received two Purple Hearts from that deployment. But all I remember is my mom always being there for me and my sisters, which was a good thing, because I probably would have gone off the rails. But, Mom, thank you for all you've done. Thanks for being here. To my father, retired lieutenant colonel, infantryman, a man of few words, right? So totally unlike me. But just, again, like I said, Vietnam tour, retired as a lieutenant colonel. When I was going on my first assignment over to Germany, like I said, man, a few words, but he just said, hey, do what's right, trust in God. Easy to say, hard to do. But Pop, thank you for your support through all of this and for inspiring my service and your grandson's service. Erin's family, not here. She's one of 7 kids. I now have like 22 nieces and nephews. Christmas is insane. It was really insane when they were little, but awesome support from her family, her parents supporting her when I was out of the net. To my awesome kids, right? First, Jack, who's not here, my youngest son, just graduated from Virginia Tech. He's got his first job. He's kind of getting into it. He's still eating my food, driving my car, but we're making progress. And so we're just about there. So he's grinding on that today. But his brother, his older brother, Bobby, who's here, lieutenant in the 11th Airborne Division, came down from Alaska over the weekend to be here, along with his girlfriend, Kylie, who's here. And then, of course, my oldest daughter, Anna, she has moved out of the sun, married, and my son-in-law, Bobby Stevens. So I would like to present her some flowers. And those kids, holding down the fort. My granddaughter, Catherine, there, first one, boy, talk about keeping you grounded. That young lady does for sure. She could care less what my rank is, as she vomits on me when I'm holding her. But I tell you what, none of this happens, of course, without my beautiful bride, Erin. So we met at Virginia Tech. I proposed to her to get married at a football game. It was loud. If you haven't been to a Virginia Tech football game, it's very loud. And I'm not sure if she thought I said, do you want another Coke or will you marry me? But she said yes. And here we are 35 years later. But she's been through all the deployments, all the time away from home. She is, holding down the fort when I'm not there, even when you're not deployed in some of the crazy hours. So, baby, thank you for being here. I couldn't do this without you. I wouldn't want to do it without you. So, lace them up. She was not overly stoked that there's 4 more years of this, I'll be honest with you, sir. But we are going to run through the tape. And finally, to the men and women of the United States Army Reserve, More than 185,000 Army Reserve soldiers and civilians and their family members that are getting it after it every day across all 50 states, 4 territories, in 27 countries. Thank you for what you do. Know that you are making a difference for the Army and for the nation, and I'm honored to ruck up with you. My commitment to you, the soldiers of the Army Reserve: I will lead from the front, I will lead by example, and I will never quit. My message to the United States Army Reserve Force, and especially to the commanders sitting to my right and leaders and those gathered across the nation, serving across the globe: never forget why the United States Army Reserve ultimately exists. We have one purpose: to deliver combat-ready soldiers and formations at point of need in support of the Army and the nation. Leaders, that is your purpose. That is where I want you focused. Just 9 days ago, we celebrated the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. Everyone remembers where they were on 9/11. There's probably a lot of folks cannot remember where they were on 9/10. September 10th, 2001 was just another day. The next morning, in a matter of a few hours, everything changed. Just as General Pappas said, there's something on the horizon. The national security environment is as crazy as I've seen it in my time in the Army. There will be another 9/11. I don't know where, and I don't know when. But I do know when it does happen, the Army will need us, the Army Reserve, to be ready. The nation will need us to be ready. We may not have the opportunity to go to that range one last time. No one's going to care what your MRC level is or if you're on profile. No one's going to care. Could be lace them up, head to the debarkation point. So we have to be ready. We must be ready. And we will be ready. And it won't be because of me. It will be because of you, the men and women of the United States Army Reserve. We have the most professional soldiers and leaders I've seen in my 36 years of doing this Army thing. We just need to keep putting our shoulder into it. And we will. We will maintain our great legacy that started in 1908. Warrior citizens being called upon to defend the nation. 116 years of kicking ass. So like all who have gone before us, we will answer that call on time and in numbers. We have no other choice. It is the honor of my lifetime to lead this tremendous organization, and I look forward to getting out about and seeing you all in your battle space. Thanks to all for being here. I'm honored and humbled by your presence. It's time to lace them up, get to work. May God bless you all. May God bless our Army, and may God continue to bless our great nation. Twice the citizen, combat ready. This will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join us for the benediction, singing of the Army song, retiring of the colors, and remain standing for the departure of the official party.
I invite you to receive this benediction in the prayer of St. Patrick. May you leave this ceremony today with God's strength to pilot you, God's might to uphold you, God's wisdom to guide you, God's eye to look before you, God's ear to hear you, God's word to speak for you, God's hand to guard you, God's shield to protect you, and God's host to save you. And may God's grace and peace fill and sustain you. It's in our Lord's name I pray. Amen.